You are now listening to 1 Timothy 4:13 Project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise, Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano.
Good evening. Welcome again to Project 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'm Pastor Sumrall, the pastor of the Cathedral of Praise, and thank you for allowing Sister Bev and Sean and I, though you haven't heard Sister Bev yet, but I think the middle of next month she'll be starting up with Leviticus. So I'll do Genesis and Exodus, and then she'll head into Leviticus. But Pastor A joins us every day for Proverbs. So let's go to Pastor A right now.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Pastora A, and today we're stepping into the Book of Proverbs where God's wisdom meets daily life. So let's get started. Today we're looking at Proverbs 2, verses 9 to 11. It says, "Then you will understand what is right and just and fair, and you will find the right way to go. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you, and understanding will keep you safe." We see four things here for us to understand. We see the right or righteousness. We see the just or justice. We see fair or equity. We see the right way to go or the good paths. Now, these four things are four things that we need to strive for to understand in our life. We need to understand what is right, just, fair, and the right way to go or the right thing to do. Now, the knowledge applied makes wisdom show us how to make good decisions. Let me say that again. The knowledge that we hear, sometimes from the mouth of God, as we learned yesterday, when we apply the knowledge to make wisdom, that then shows us how to make good decisions. That is important. The fruit of knowledge plus wisdom in our life is shown as we make good decisions. It keeps guiding us to more of what is right, to more of what is just, to more of what is fair, to more of what is the right way to go. How? Well, when we take a look at verse 10, we see wisdom enters our hearts. Again, what is that? That's knowledge applied. Knowledge applied enters our hearts. Now, this knowledge is good and godly, and it makes us happy. We know what is good. We know what is right. We know what to do, where to go, where not to go. So wise choices are going to watch over us. Wise choices are going to keep us safe. Now, how and where do you learn this? Well, go back to verse 9, and you will see what is right, what is just, and fair. Then it guides you on where to go. So first we learn about what is right, what is just, what is fair. And then we learn that we are to be guided in our steps, in the way and the path that we are to go. So wisdom and understanding is a very big application in our life that keeps us safe, and it protects us by watching over us to keep us from harm, as we see in verse 11. Now, these are choices that we get to make that will then affect the choices of our life. So we are looking for wisdom and knowledge to be our guide, right? Now, because it must actively be looked for, it must actively be searched, actively be found. After this, we then need to actively be applying what we have found. Learn to make choices that will let our lives be protected by good and godly wisdom and understanding. So let me ask you a question. Are you making choices that will let your life be protected by good, godly wisdom and understanding? If not, there might be something that you need to fix or change in your life. If the answer is yes, then you're on the right step to walking in protection and to be able to find more knowledge and more wisdom in your future. So now let's head over to Pastor Sumrall.
Our Old Testament passage today picks up in Genesis chapter 31. Now, I'm enjoying getting to do this even more this year because last year in the New Testament, I pretty much always finish the New Testament every morning in morning prayer. But many mornings now, we're not being able to finish the entire Old Testament reading. But I always know I get the evening to work with you. So let's start with Genesis 31, verse 1. Jacob has now left his home He's fled to his uncle Laban's house. He has hit a deal with Laban. He's married 2 daughters now, and now he's worked out a deal where he can take care of his own family by working another 7 years. Genesis 31, verse 1. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He's gained all his wealth at our father's expense. Now, I want you to notice a few things. First of all, that's not true. Jacob stole nothing from their father. In fact, it was the father who did everything he could to rig the system so that Jacob would never prosper. Now look back with me at verse 35 in chapter 30. It says, But that very day Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. And he placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3 days' journey from where Jacob was. Now that's called rigging the system. All right, their agreement was all the spotted and speckled goats, etc., will go to Jacob. But when you remove all of those goats and sheep that would qualify and that would give birth to their genetic counterparts, so that all you have is one type of genetically proven sheep and goats, well, you're not going to get any spotted and speckled anymore because none of their parents were spotted and speckled. So Laban really rigged the system to cheat Jacob. But also notice Laban's sons were grumbling. Anytime you begin to be successful, people who are not successful grumble. Laban and his sons were going down. Jacob was going up. Critics always come out when you begin to succeed. So please understand, if you're getting a promotion, if God is blessing you, then people are going to grumble. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude toward him. Now here's a great truth you need to understand. Not only do blessings change people's attitudes toward us, children change the hearts of their parents' attitudes toward us. Now Laban knew the truth, but his children were always in his face. Now, this is one of the things I try to teach young pastors. I said, when you have a young person in the church who's drinking, who's out sleeping around, who's living an immoral life, but comes to church on Sunday, you're going to find that child is going to be working on the parents to leave church or to go to your church where drinking and womanizing or sleeping around is acceptable. There's a reason for that. They don't like coming to church and being convicted by the Holy Spirit every time you preach. So, too often in today's world, the parents follow the children, when it should be telling the children to be quiet and live right. Verse 3, Then the Lord said to Jacob, Return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. Now here's a great thing to do. Jacob didn't get mad. Jacob didn't fight back. Jacob didn't get into an argument with them. Jacob just realized, okay, it's time to listen to God. And God made a great promise. I will be with you. Now, remember, when Jacob left, his brother wanted to kill him. And remember, when Jacob left, his mother said, I'll call you and send for you when it's safe. None of that has happened yet. But God has said, I will be with you. Verse 4. So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times, but God has not allowed him to do me any harm. Now, notice some truth there. Wives know when a husband's lying. Okay, guys, one of the things I always try to teach men is wives always know the truth. So don't try to lie to your wife. Lying to your wife is like trying to lie to you, only she'll talk back. So he tells his wife, he said, you know I've done what's right. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm. Now here is one of those wow truths in the Bible. There will always be people who want to abuse you, but God will not let them harm you. For if he said the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock began to produce speckled young. Then when he changed his mind and said the striped animals will be your wages, then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. Now, why did God do that? Genesis 30, verse 35 that we read earlier. Laban is reaping what he sowed. He sowed stealing. He sowed rigging the system. So God re-rigged the system. One time during the mating season, I had a dream and I saw the male goats mating with the female goats were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of the Lord said to me, now this is Jesus. The angel of the Lord said to him, Jacob, And I replied, Here I am. The angel said, Look up, and you will see that only the streaked, the speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. God says, you know what? Look around and see my blessing, because I know you've been mistreated. So God sees and God blesses. And then notice what he says next. I am the God. So this is Jesus. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now, get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth. Now, here's that preparation again. Okay? Prepare to follow. We saw that also in Joshua 4. Prepare. If you don't get yourself ready when it's time to go, you miss the opportunity. Rachel and Leah responded, That's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. Now they say, Why? He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. So Laban not only cheated or tried to cheat Jacob, Laban cheated his own daughters. And after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. So the wives knew Jacob had done what was right. Jacob was not dividing the family. Laban divided the family. Laban, in his crookedness, lost his daughters. Now, parents, you need to get a hold of this truth. You can do things that cause you to lose your children, and you can blame other people. It was Laban's actions that caused him to lose his daughters and his grandchildren. So Jacob put his wives and children on camels. He drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he acquired in Paddan-aram and set out for the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Wow. Now this is where a very interesting story in the Bible begins, called the gods from beyond the river. And this is the Euphrates River that we're talking about here. Gods from beyond the river. These are the same gods that later Jacob called his family to repent of and buried them under the tree. This is the same gods that later somebody obviously dug up and they were worshiping in Egypt. These are the same gods from beyond the river that for 40 years in the wilderness they worshipped. All of that idolatry began with one woman named Rachel. Rachel didn't worship God. Rachel worshipped the idols that Laban worshipped. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban that they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. So they'd been gone about 10 days now. But the previous night, God had appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone. God protects us by speaking to unsaved people. That's a great truth. Laban caught up with Jacob as he camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. All right, so he did not attack. He set up camp. What do you mean by deceiving me like this? Laban demanded. How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say that you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music, accompanied by tambourines and harps. Probably not. But he's saying that because the relatives are there. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and my grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You've acted very foolishly. I could destroy you. But the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I understand your feelings that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home. But now we get to the real issue. No longer the prepared speech in front of the relatives. Here's the real problem. But why have you stolen my gods? Laban did not worship God. Laban had his own gods, his own idols. This is why God told Abraham to leave there. I rushed away because I was afraid, Jacob answered. I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. All right, so we still have fear in Jacob's life. But as for your gods, see if you can find them and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours. Okay, so all the relatives are standing there, and I will give it back. But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Now here's a truth I want you to see. Jacob almost lost his wife that day. Almost lost his wife that day. Because he had no idea what she had done. Now parents, be very careful when you start getting emotional about people accusing your children of things. Because you don't know what they really did. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, then to the tents of the 2 servant wives, but he found nothing. Finally he went to Rachel's tent. But Rachel had taken the household idols and hidden them in her camel saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period." All right, so she's lying. This is lies and deceit. So Laban continued to search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry, and he challenged Laban. "What's my crime?" he demanded. "What have I done to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You've rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us, before our relatives, for all to see. Let them judge between us." Now, Jacob's angry because he's finally understood the real issue. It's not family. It's not kissing my grandbabies. The real issue is his idols. He said, "For 20 years I've been with you caring for your flocks, and in all that time your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count on your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked 14 years earning your 2 daughters, then 6 more years for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you." Then Laban replied to Jacob, "Now remember, you're in front of the relatives. These women are my daughters, and these children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it will be a witness to our commitment." So here's a contract, a covenant, a vow between 2 men. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, now this is really, really important, "Gather some stones." So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. Now this is so important, beloved. When you have a family feud taking place, you have to get the rest of your family to assist in the peace process. So he got his wives and his children to participate in the peace process. Otherwise, you and that person may make peace, but the rest of the relatives don't make peace. So Jacob was very wise here in this. And they sat down to eat a covenant meal. That's the best way I know to begin a new peaceful relationship. Have a meal together. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jagar Sahaduha, which means a witness pile in Aramaic. And Jacob called it Galid, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, "This pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today." This explains why it was called Galid, witness pile. But it was also called Mitzvah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, "May the Lord keep watch between us and make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight." Now notice, when you have a contract with somebody, you shouldn't have to be watching each other to make sure the contract is fulfilled. When you have a contract with somebody, when you have a covenant with somebody, it's valid even if nobody's watching. But I think it's also very interesting that Laban doesn't call on his gods. He only calls on the Lord. So Laban may be worshiping these demon gods, but he doesn't put any confidence in them. May the Lord keep watch between us. If you mistreat my daughters or marry other wives, God will see it, even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I've set between us. They stand of a witness as of our vows. These are provisions now. You're not going to marry other women. And now, he said, I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass this pile of stone to this monument to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of my grandfather Nahor, to serve as a judge between us. All right, so Nahor, his grandfather served God, but Laban had his idols, to serve as a judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there. That's beautiful. He said, Laban, you may not believe in God enough just except to use his name because you know he's real and your demon gods are not. But he said, I'm going to worship. So he offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain, invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. And notice, everyone, all relatives, are invited to the covenant feast. Again, we're making peace in a family. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters, and he blessed them. Then he left and returned home. There's some beautiful truths to help in family relations in here, and some scary things. How a grandchild named Laban never followed the God of his grandfather, Nahor. How Rachel didn't serve God. Rachel worshipped her idols. There's some really interesting truth in here that allows us to understand a lot of other things that are going to be happening in the future. Father, I lift to you your people tonight. We ask for healing. We ask for life. We ask for strength. We ask for peace. We ask for peace in our families, Lord. Give moms and dads and give Lolo and Lola's wisdom and how to bring peace to family strife. And let the parents be strong enough to not follow their children's attitudes, but to teach the children to have right attitudes. We thank you for it, Father. In Jesus' name. Good night. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
Thank you for joining us today on the 1 Timothy 4:13 project with the under-shepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano. Catch their podcasts on all leading podcast platforms and listen through DZBR 531 or tune in online at www.bible.radio. The Cathedral of Praise is a church fully committed to Jesus Christ and His Word. Our main campus is located at 350 Taft Avenue, Metro Manila, Philippines. For a full list of COP campus locations and service schedules, visit us at cathedralofpraisemanila.com.ph. Tune in again tomorrow for another inspiring reading from the Old Testament and Proverbs.